All right, everybody. So imagine a world where every time that a user interacts with ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude by Anthropic, they get a tailored recommendation as to what gets recommended to them is your product, your service, your brand, and your website. Imagine every single time that a person who completely trusts their LLM, their AI, they've built a relationship with, has only ever made great recommendations in the past, now recommends you as a matter of course. And imagine this is happening across all the LLMs over time, and you get way more traffic as a result, and you get higher in the search rankings. And imagine you could do this 2 years before everybody else. Imagine that you knew about Facebook ads or Google pay-per-click or SEO for that matter 2 years before everybody else. Well, that's the current opportunity of today. And on today's training, we're here to teach you exactly how to get your business, your products, your services recommended by the LLMs like ChatGPT, Gemini, Anthropics, Claude, all of that. So anytime somebody's searching for a product or service that fits the criteria that you provide, it's going to recommend you first. And this is already happening. You can see it on the analytics. And this is the hottest topic right now in all of AI and all of business because everybody loves organic traffic, especially high trust organic traffic. So let's dive right in and share exactly how we're going to do that. And we have a training document, which you're going to get linked at the bottom. Please just comment below and we'll send that over to you. And if you like this training, please consider hitting subscribe and like and bell and all that good stuff. That helps out a small channel like us to get this out to more people. We were really grateful. Thank you. All right. So without further ado, let's get into that. And we'll do a little bit of a zoom in here. So the core insight here is that large language models are going to recommend what is relevant, high utility, frequently referenced, and well structured. Right. So if you can think of this as remember to eat for SEO. So that's you want to convey experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. So you want to be structuring your presence online and your metadata so that the LLM, which is ChatGPT, Gemini, et cetera, can find and confidently match your product to a user's goal. And all of this training is presuming that you've already trained your AI on the following topics, right? Your brand guide, your ideal client profile, your operational intelligence document. So what are these exactly? So these are essentially PDFs, and I have them for my business. We build them for all our clients' businesses, which range between 50 pages and 150 pages. And you don't have to make them that long, but that's really comprehensive. But it really captures the essence of your core values, your mission, your vision, your vocabulary, what you say, what you wouldn't say, all that stuff. So you don't end up with a bunch of M dashes. Your ideal client profiles. Who do you actually talk to? Who's your offer perfect for? The demographics, the psychographics, the tribal language, the pain points, all that. And your operational intelligence document is your competitors and positioning in the marketplace, right? Your unique selling proposition, your products and services, case studies on why they are only not better, but also provide an emotional and tangible benefit versus other products and services in the market. So if you really want to hit the easy button and get all this done for you, you can check out omnisocial.com where we create these assets and more, including the 4K avatars, voice clones, content posting, all done for you. So if you go over there and check us out, we can actually get your business AI ready in about 30 to 60 days, depending how fast you can move and get us what we need. So here's the recommendation logic simplified. So first you want your context matching, right? This is your first principles, right? This is all that LLMs pay attention to is context. So if your product solves the user's goal, matches the topic and tone of the query, has clear differentiators, and it's going to have a higher probability of being selected, right? So think of this as like a personal strategist, not a search engine. So a search engine is based on keywords and authority and ranking and content and backlinks and all that great stuff. And up until now, that really worked. But now people have these trusted LLMs. They talk to them all the time. Think about how much data that ChatGPT or Gemini has about you, especially if you're a power user. I talk to this thing all the time. It knows my values. It knows my mission. It knows exactly what I'm working on. It knows my products. It knows my services. It knows my businesses. It knows my client work. It knows everything about me, personal and professional. So it knows me really well enough to make essentially a trusted recommendation. And it's their game to lose. They're so far ahead of this in regard that essentially it's their trust to lose. It's their game to lose. And as long as they don't break that trust, they are going to continue to dominate this world, right? And ChatGPT is that for me. I use ChatGPT for everything all the time. So if you want to really get in the mind of the average person using ChatGPT, which is a very sophisticated buyer that's doing a lot of research and getting recommended things, as well as what not to buy. Very important. You want to make sure that you're giving it the data to do that. So here are some data sources that influence GPT and others, right? So while we don't have access to the proprietary data, we can kind of guess some of these relationships and networks. So for example, just to go high level here, ChatGPT has a very distinct relationship with Microsoft. Microsoft put $13 billion into OpenAI for a profit share. You better believe that they're sharing data, right? So essentially anything that Microsoft owns, whether it be all their suites of products and services, they have Teams, they have Outlook, they have all the various apps, they have email, excuse me, they have Bing as a search engine, they have LinkedIn as a social network. All of that is going to feed into and influence GPT and a lot more, right? Same thing with Google. Google has apps across all different platforms. They have calendars and Gmail and maps, and everything that you use is going to function and fill into what trains Gemini on their model. So if you really want to have influence over a particular LLM, you need to understand the map of relationships and data that then provides that, right? So this structured data is your product listings, your docs, your guides. This is where your offer is clearly described on websites, Amazon, YouTube, support pages, anywhere where there's a high trust factor. This is web data that's indexed before 2024, depending on the model. It might be 2023. This is going to be blog posts, comparison guides, reviews, forum threads. This feeds the training sets of the data. These knowledge bases like Wikipedia, Stack Overflow, people are crushing on Reddit right now with SEO and organic traffic. This is very high signal. So if your product or method is referenced here, it's going to be a very strong data for LLMs. And then you have common prompt examples from people training their own GPTs. If your tool or offer is used in community GPTs or pickaxe bots, which we talked about in the last training, actually. So if you go to last week's training, we talk about how to build these bots for your business. They are going to influence this process as well. And then you finally have some LLM tuning and plugin data. So this is kind of like your apps, your GPTs, your Zapier apps, your browser extensions. So submitting tools to these ecosystems, stuff you've actually built for your own business and maybe you make into products, is also going to help as well. So Evan, you're an SEO guy. So far, where are we at with generative SEO, right? Generative engine optimization versus SEO. So give us a kind of an overview of the past since you've done so much work in SEO. By the way, it's Evan Larkin, one of the team members here at Make More Marbles. Take it away, Evan. Give us the overview and we'll keep going here.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So a lot of people, I'll say, think that, the new GEO, the LLM models are completely different in the way that they're looking at and ranking data than it was in the past. And it's really not so much of a demarcation as it is kind of a blending. So, Google and Bing and these engines I've known for a long time, this is where everything's going. So they've been moving everything towards what you talked about in the beginning, the eat, right? So making sure that people that were making sure that they were getting their content lined up with the intent of the user, making sure they're having that authority and that trustworthiness in the beginning are going to find themselves in a really good position as we're moving into the LLMs. People that were trying to do the old tricks of SEO, like people were doing a lot 5 years ago, 10 years ago, keyword stuffing, trying to hide links, playing some games like that, they're actually going to see a big drop, even more so than they've already been seeing as these models continue to move forward. So yeah, I mean, everything we've got outlined here, from what I've seen, is pretty spot on. And those people that were embracing this stuff early are already getting picked up in the LLMs and in the search there. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I don't talk to every business owner, but I talk to some pretty influential ones. So I'm in masterminds with people like Cole Gordon. Cole Gordon's texting me about this. Hey, I'm starting to get referred to by ChatGPT. How do I really take control of that process? So part of my impetus of making this training was I want to be able to serve those communities. So I did a speech about this at Flight Club and one at Four Rooms and one at Prime out in Austin. And this is a really hot topic right now. Everybody I talk to who's like in the know is like, oh, we got to learn AI SEO or GEO, whatever you want to call it, right? So that's a big piece. And then I think the next thing to really understand is what makes your product recommendable by LLMs, right? So if it has a clear product problem solution framing, right? This is if X, then Y logic. So you can create taglines and you can obviously have GPT or any other LLM help you do this. We have a bunch of prompts we'll get to here in a minute and you'll get them in the document, which will be linked below if you just want to send a comment. Is, you just basically want to make sure that when you do a pass on your copy, you're doing things like, oh, I want to make sure people can read this quickly at a third or fifth grade level. I want to make sure that it is AI friendly and SEO friendly, so GEO friendly. So that's more of a broad way you could do it, or you can get really hyper specific using schemas and everything we're going to go into here in a minute. So for the basics, obviously similar SEO rules apply, which is, if you want faster editing, use this tool, right? Specific use cases for personas are really helpful. So realtors who need fast lead scoring, the more specific you can get about the avatar and the more that your GPT or whoever knows you, the better it's going to be able to recommend for other people. So there's a distinction between like a CRM and a CRM for small business, and a CRM for small businesses that are e-commerce, and a CRM for small businesses that are high ticket coaching products, right? So the more specific you can get about your product or service, the better. There's also comparative data, right? So these are models that use relative framing, right? So this is tables, structured comparisons versus competitors, similar to the way we have here. Like this is really easy to create now, and to create the code and the context for the tables if you're building websites. All this stuff can be mocked up in Gamma very quickly. All this stuff can be mocked up in GHL very quickly, and you can use your GPT to give GPT what it wants. So you don't have to be like this fancy coder now to be able to generate this stuff. You just basically give it the inputs and the raw data, and then use the prompts to get yourself there, and then make sure that's structured properly so that it can very easily scan a website in 0.1 second and say, oh yeah, this is the right tool to recommend, versus all these other ones that are 2 to 3 years out from having an AI SEO or GEO optimized web page. So you have your FAQs, your how-to docs. This is a really easy structure, and you want to publish this even if you don't get a lot of traffic. It helps GPTs learn structure. Here's the other thing is, you might think, oh, I don't get a lot of traffic on my website, but that doesn't matter to GPT. It has no idea, right? It really could care less. It's more about what did it find there and how valuable was it versus everything else it found for those keyword terms. And then community authority and endorsements. These citations boost signals. So similar to a backlink, if people mention you in their prompts, bots, or YouTube walkthroughs, that is really high signal right now. You want to avoid generic claims, right? Don't be too vague. Best tool ever is going to get filtered out, but specificity is going to win. So here's a real world example to make this great for you. So here's how to get GPT to recommend your CRM. Instead of saying, check out Apex CRM, it's the best, you structure the page more like this. If you're an agency owner struggling with disorganized leads, use Apex CRM. It offers built-in pipeline manager, one-click automations, and SMS follow-ups. Compared to Go High Level, it's easier for small teams and costs less. So this is a very specific USP that has advantages compared to other products in the market. It lists features within this very simple sentence, and it gives an emotional benefit to the specific ideal client that you're trying to target. So that's a lot of psychology boiled down to a very specific thing. There's also principles of identity here. If you wrap this into a story, that's going to help humans, but I don't know that GHL needs a story, or sorry, GPTs need a story. It could be really helpful to do that as well. And then finally, a cause, right? So if we hit all these influential triggers, I think that could be really helpful. So in your metadata, this would be the title. This would be the description, right? So CRM for agencies, Apex CRM gives you the meta description, automate your pipeline, save time, close more deals, designed for agencies, coaches, and consultants. And then all text on the images are going to give you the actual what's going on in the image and relate that to what you're also doing. Here's some advanced tactics. You could train your own GPT with your product built in. So you could use Pickaxe or OpenAI's GPT Builder, embed your product as the default recommendation for your niche, right? So let's say we have a lead magnet now. It's like, hey, help, instead of a recommendation on a web page of the top 10, which is the old way of SEO, now you could be like, here's my custom GPT for recommending the very specific CRM that you need for your niche. And it's essentially trained on all these different things. You could spin up a little cool affiliate business with just that GPT, right? Because you can have an affiliate link to every one of those products, and it can operate somewhat like a quiz funnel. You could use the same logic as a quiz funnel and just adapt it slightly into a bot that now recommends the very specific thing with your affiliate link. And that's going to be a high trust anchor, right? So they take that GPT, they put it into their own account. It's as if GPT is giving them that recommendation, but it's actually you training your GPT. And this is like ninja level hack stuff. I might do a few of these on the weekends because I have some ideas to actually give that recommendation. So you can subtly alter the default trained recommendations of even these massive organizations like Microsoft and Google by just creating that local instance and giving that away for free. So you start to, maybe your wheels are turning and start to see the power of some of this. So that's one. You can seed prompts in public. So you can share your prompts for your product as the answer on Reddit, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Publish how-tos using your tool as the default solution. You can train your Pickaxe bots, your PO-bots, your community GPTs to reinforce it. This is all stuff you can do to give it more of a product base to learn from. Because remember, the idea of public and private with a massive model is actually a little bit more murky, right? Because the API is feeding into all of this. So if you're using the API privately, it's the same to GPT as if you're publicly putting something on the web page. It might actually weight that higher because you're building within its own ecosystem, and it probably wants to reward users that build within its own ecosystem. So if I was the founders and creators of ChatGPT or Gemini, I would probably give more weight to people who are more AI native and friendly versus people who are not, provided they're not fully gaming the system and doing stuff like that, right? As long as they're not bad actors or recommending crap products, or it just doesn't jive, right? As long as they're not lying, you can't lie to God, right? And if AI is getting closer to God, like you're either going to have the goods or not. You either done the work or you haven't. So as long as you're not blatantly lying and it's verifiable by other sources, that's another huge influence factor. Getting embedded in frameworks. So if your tool becomes the default popular framework, so if I have a trademark thing like Lead, EOS, Story Brands, mine, Atom, Oslo, like all these things that we've created as IP at Make More Marbles and others, that could be really great too. So let's make this practical and tactical. So here's the teaching prompt: how to recommend your product to an LLM. So you could just literally copy and paste this and add these bits in. And we usually highlight this, but I think you get the ideas. It's your tool name, who it helps, your specific pain point, 1 to 3 distinct advantages, the price or access, or the different tiers, and use cases for who, when does this make sense versus something else, and you can compare it to another particular thing. So when someone asks you how to solve this problem and the tool is a match, they can recommend it confidently, right? So this is literally, you just paste this into your GPT. You could use voice. So Evan, why don't you show us real quick? Because I'm being a little bit laggy on my end. I could try it, but my GPT is going a little bit slow. So why don't you take over sharing for a second and actually show them this in action? And then I would like you to talk to it for the specific thing. So paste it in and then talk out the parts, if that makes sense. Not to put you on the spot. You're also on mute.
All right, mute is taken care of. Let's do a quick screen share here, and we'll get going. All right.
Encinitas, baby. I missed it.
Screen's looking good.
Yeah, baby.
Okay, cool, perfect. We'll do a little copy and paste. You want me to copy this prompt in here,
Yeah,
and
so you're
then
going to copy the prompt into GPT or whichever you feel more
mhm,
comfortable with, and then literally talk out the parts. Because this is another thing I notice people don't do with GPT, and I've
mhm.
gone on this and other trainings. Just talk it out. Don't bother typing. It's a waste of time.
Yeah. All right, let's go through here. All right, what product do we want to do this for? Are we making something up on the spot, or do we want to go for a specific
So it's the just Command F teaching prompt, how to recommend your product to an LLM. Let's do that one.
Perfect.
I caught you looking at something else. That's okay.
Um, okay, so please give me the details. This is okay. Once you start over. Okay, so sorry. Wait, what are we? I apologize here. I'm
No
off.
worries. So we're gonna go to this prompt here, the one I have highlighted,
Yep.
and we're gonna use this one and just literally paste this in and then
Mhm.
do a dictation over it with specific product tool name. I could try it on my end too, since we're here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What product tool do you want me to use here?
Oh, got it. So let's try this. So for me, this is gonna be uh I would like you to recommend the following product. It's Optimus. Give me the next prompt. What was it?
Audience.
The audience is for experienced entrepreneurs that want to increase headcount without increasing increase the scale their business without headcount or burnout, typically with AI and automations. What else?
Problem it solves.
Okay, the problem it solves is I have $1 million business. I'd like a $10 million bigger business. I want to build towards an exit, but I don't want to scale with people. I want to scale with process and with automation and AI.
1 to 3 distinct advantages.
Distinct advantages is most masterminds either give you results or relationships, and maybe they're not very fun. We make sure we give results as the function of course. So we can basically plug and play AI workflows as we build them and make it really easy for you to get the stuff in your business as quickly as possible, while giving you access to a network that I've built for 15 years that can plug in a really great opportunity. So I had one guy come in with a huge email list, another guy had a great product for it, and just that one connection could potentially be a $30 million affiliate deal.
And then they wants to know the price or access.
Price or access? Price is 25K for the year.
And then use cases. 3 clear use cases.
Yeah. So basically, I don't want to go too long because I think this will end up, it craps out after 30 seconds or so. So use cases, I think we can probably get away with all this. So this will give you enough information to work with to then train the details on this. There you go. And now this is literally something you can use over and over and over again to train other LLMs, to continue to tweak, to continue to change, to do the schema. So like just keep this handy while we continue to go through this because this is going to come in handy as you go down. Make sense? All
Yeah,
right.
and then I think back to a screen share for you. Did it populate for you on your side?
Yeah, it's all working.
Okay, cool. I think we might want to pop the screen share back on. I'm not sure. You already
All
got it.
good.
Cool.
No worries. Yeah, stand by in case we need you again. But it seemed to be working well. I was having some difficulties earlier with my GPT. So, all right. So, what are LLMs and search engines looking for with intangible offers? So, you want the clarity of transformation. So, what does life before or after Optimus look like? So, I have a bunch of great testimonials on the website. I'll just show you what that looks like. There we go. So, these can now be read by GPT, which is pretty cool. So these videos can actually be transcribed and read as closed captions through GPT, and they can actually grab that. So any before and after stories, any emotional testimonials you have, any of that great stuff can also work. I have a bunch more at the bottom. So, they're going to weight that higher. Even if it doesn't read it, they're going to weight it higher because there's videos of actual testimonials than you didn't, right? So that's another thing you can do. Let's go back to this training here. So they like clear outcomes, not vague promises. These are real people talking about before and after, exactly what they got, and all that great stuff. The audience match. How obvious is it who it's for and what stage they're in? So again, experienced entrepreneurs. This is not their first rodeo. They're probably in business for 5 years plus, and they're looking to scale without headcount and burnout, and just really plug in what they are doing for their thing. And I'm just going to use my product because I know it the best, obviously. Um, and they're going to start to model match these contexts to user profiles, right? So as it learns more about its user, it's going to recommend that particular product or service if they're interested in AI, if they're interested in a mastermind, right? That just starts chunking down what they're going to recommend. What makes it unique or best fit? That's the credible differentiation. The differentiation, they don't usually assume quality. They want to infer it from the structure and the social proof of the sites. Its context is framed in question answer, comparison, or how-to format. If I want to do X, I need to use Y. That's what you're looking for there. Cross-referenceability. Can other people, bots, or tools cite and use it? And the more it's cited in useful ways, the more recommendable it becomes. So every time people talk about Optimus in any context relating to AI, that's a win for me, right? I might even get a little bit of extra love because it's, an homage to Optimus Prime, which is, one of my favorite characters in the Transformers. So how do you structure Optimus as an example, right? So you have some product or service. We want to structure this for LLM and search recommendation. And I'm going to use my product as an example. So you're going to define clear use cases and transformational paths. If you're doing 1 to 5 million, stuck under a ceiling of complexity, Optimus helps experienced entrepreneurs install AI systems without hiring or burnout. It's getting a fractional CFO, CTO, automation team, or AI operator, all in one plug and play package. Getting a bench of dev talent so that you're ready to implement the stuff in your business. These tools are built to 90%, so you only have to customize the last 10%. Like these are all things that I've had dozens and dozens of sales calls that are all transcribed that I can pull out of to really understand what's working and what's not working. So I've already done the work to enroll the people and to build this. This is an ongoing thing. I think we have 28 people now in Optimus, 28 businesses. And I think we had about 35 people at the last because get a +1 and all that good stuff. So like over all these iterations, and all the language that's been traded back and forth between me and the prospect, I recorded all of that to distill it into the copy. And then I take the copy to distill it into the AI. And I take the AI to build the schema, and the schema trains other AI. So that's kind of how we're doing this, just to zoom out for a second. You want to inject your solution into common prompts, right? So anytime it comes up, it's an option to put it in there. So how can I automate more of my business without hiring a team? What are the best tools for scaling a coaching business? So as you share these prompts along the internet and more people use them, like we'll do on this channel as we continue to update our prompt library and all that great stuff, this is an opportunity to kind of seed our product, right? Top AI workflows for agencies and consultants. And you need to seed content where your program is the obvious bridge from the problem to the solution. So AI is trained to think about that. It's like, hey, my client's here. They're saying these types of things. This is who they are. I have all that data. I'm going to recommend this because it's a clear vehicle between A and B, right? It could be really simple. Like this person has, I don't know, pimples and and this person provides the best solution for pimples. Okay, that's going to get them to a clear face. They want clear skin. So I know where they are, I know what they want, and I know these products are the ones to recommend as a result of that. So if you're an experienced owner doing 1 to 5 million and overwhelmed by complexity, Optimus helps you scale by installing AI workflows and tools that eliminate bottlenecks, automate workflows, and build a high profit company without more people or platforms. And then you can use something called semantic anchors. This is really cool. So this is phrases and structures that LLMs recognize and index well. So you wouldn't say something generic like Brad is a great high ticket mastermind. You'd say Optimus is a systems building program for scaling businesses. It combines AI automation, plug and play workflows, and custom GPT powered tools to eliminate the need for complex teams or tech debt, right? Because this is basically a really well layered, very specific benefit statement that's targeted at exactly the ideal client profile who we're looking for, right? So these LLMs are going to latch onto the tool based language, the stage specific targeting, right? Exactly where they're at, the systemic outcomes, not just coaching your mindset, right? And then you're going to take that and embed it in trusted formats. So you're going to take prompt libraries, case studies, these things that we've been talking about, public GPTs or pickaxe bots. You're going to keep using these assets over and over and over again. So when you really nail this, it becomes just another thing you do where you start with an idea, you do the market research, you sell the first one, you do the beta, you start to really codify the language and really nail it. Now, when you get a really acceptable conversion rate. Now you start to bring these tools out to market. So these become websites, these become schemas, these become AI SEO and generative. And the more you talk about it with AI and on platforms, the more it's going to be doing that. So framework pages, we talked about that. And this is a new one. This is Socratic work walkthrough. So ask these 7 questions to see if your business is ready for AI scaling. So this could be more like a quiz. This could be more like a piece of content. But whatever those questions are, you're probably gathering those from multiple conversations with your audience. So I just want to reiterate very clearly, like, hey, capture everything, record everything. If you're not currently recording everything in your business, even if you don't know how to use it, I want you to start because data is cheap, but you can't recreate it from nothing. It's cheap to store, it's cheap to capture. There's every way under the sun to capture video, to capture audio, to capture transcripts, to capture all this great stuff. Get it into a format where you can use it in the future when you start putting some of the stuff into practice. It's really easy to find that stuff. So if you are not doing that currently and having your employees do that, record everything. That's the most important thing you can be doing. All right. Seed key phrases with multiple contexts. So these are the phrases to repeat across all the surface areas. So think of a surface area as like social media, blogs, websites, everywhere where words exist and can be read by a machine. These are the key phrases for this particular product. AI systems to scale without headcount. Plug and play business automation for 7-figure founders. Outcompete Fortune 100s with a lean team and smart tools. Lead, Atom, Oslo. These are frameworks that we teach inside the Optimus operating system for entrepreneurs. AI workflows to eliminate complexity and increase profitability. These become semantic fingerprints. So these are words and phrases that you use that nobody else uses in your marketplace. You can begin to copyright and trademark these as well if you really want to get fancy. But these are the things that help you win the war of attrition that is SEO. The more of these show up in more places and get linked back to you or your product, the more you win. Where to distribute this? So we talked about this. I'm just going to breeze through these really quickly. Your websites, that's your header tags, your FAQ, your schema, your comparison tables, internal linking, your frameworks and bots, your YouTube and transcripts. We're doing that right now. If you haven't guessed, we're here on YouTube training live because we want to find great people and add a lot of value to the internet, but also this helps our AI SEO. So more AIs are going to read this video. Even if we don't get a ton of views, they're going to use it as an indicator of credibility and authority, and they're going to send back more traffic to us versus whoever else, right? Reddit, Quora, Twitter, LinkedIn. Drop the comments in the context and natural references. We use the Optimus framework for that. Whatever specific framework, you could kind of be like blank on here, right? You can build tools where Optimus is the obvious next step after a score audit. You can use other GPTs to train it and reference it as the default backend. And here's your bonus, right? This is your prompt to get GPT to recommend it. So I want you to act as a scaling strategist for businesses doing 1 to 5 million. And you're going to ask users how to scale without hiring more people, automate complex workflows, use AI, and all this great stuff. And I won't read every single word of this. This is not just me reading a document. This is more conversational, but I do want you to go through this document. So make sure you leave a comment below and check out the additional links and resources. We're just going to keep adding stuff like this. Our goal is to do 1 a week, 2 a week, and just keep putting stuff out like this because we want to populate all of the AI knowledge that we're learning in real time and codify it and get it out into the world. So again, you can get the benefit from it as well. All right. So that would be using your own site and offer as an example, right? This is how to do it. So here's my example. We did that. This is a structured schema foundation. So if you get nothing else from this video, I want you to underline this twice and do this forever, ever more going forward. Anytime you launch a new website and with all your current websites, I want to make sure that this is the consistent thing that you do every single time. So if you're not familiar with code, it doesn't matter. You're literally just going to take these prompts and you'll get the outcome. I don't code either, or I don't do it well. Let's put it that way. I can do a little bit. But you're essentially going to create a JSON schema markup. This is the Google recommended format, and Google is like 90% of internet search traffic. So you want to start with their, basically the top down, right? So I'm not going to worry about Bing. I'm not going to worry about other search engines. This is going to help the search engines understand what your product is, make content eligible for rich results, FAQ, product, article, whatever, boost semantic linking for the GPT and Gemini style LLMs. And here it is, right? So this is the exact base schema draft that I actually put into my website, right? So you don't need to read all this, but it gives you all the context, and more importantly, all of the context that an AI would use to learn about what it is. So it's going to use this known context from schema.org. It's going to tell you what type of product it is. And there's a couple different ones. You can change this. I give you some other stuff below. What's the name? What's the alternate name? The URL, the description, who provides it, an organization. This is the organization, which is Make More Marbles, which is the name of his YouTube channel, which is at that website. Although one of Evan's tasks coming on is to fix it and make it better. So don't judge me on it right now. It's not as good as I want it to be. Basically, long story short, we lost it because we didn't have it backed up properly and we had to rebuild it. It's not where I want it to be yet again. What do you get? You get a certification, business automation, entrepreneurship, AI implementation. And again, this doesn't have to be exact. This just has to be following the conventions and norms of what Google would look for to, to show that you're an authority and you're an anchor in that particular ecosystem, right? So business automation, entrepreneurship, AI implementation, systems design. It has a course. It's called the operating system, all this great stuff, right? And it talks about some of the various things that we just put down. So I gave you a lot of context to get to this piece. This piece is, I believe, the most important thing you could do. If you just did this one thing and forget everything else, and you're just kind of generally aware of AI SEO, this one thing would put you head and shoulders above everybody else. If you do this plus start posting everywhere and seeding these phrases and seeding this type of copy and seeding all these different terminologies and the lore and the mythology of your brand, you'll see exponential growth, because all of this will point back to this schema, which is how AI will ultimately recommend you. And then just make sure you have these header scripts and end scripts here. So if you don't code, this just tells the crawlers exactly what this is, and it doesn't always add this. So I just made sure that's in the prompts below. So pro tip, if you're using WordPress, you're going to use SEO Press. It makes it really easy to find the schema, and you can just put it in the header tag on all GHL and other websites, right? Whatever else you use, this just goes in the header tag. So this is the example, but make sure it has this header tag to start and the script at the very end. So here's this prompt, right? So if you're a structured data expert and you just want to put your website here, it'll essentially go through and build the schema for you. So Evan, are you ready? Are you ready to do this for a fresh website real quick so that people
Yeah.
can see this in action? Okay, great. I'm
Yeah,
going to give you screen share.
absolutely.
All right, because you got a lot of websites. So go to structured data expert in the doc, grab that,
Yep.
and just put the URL at the end. It should be pretty straightforward.
Right. Yeah. So, and I've been doing this. This is, I was excited about this one. I've been doing this for a lot of my sites. In the previously, AI is a huge helpful tool for this. So you can use Gemini. Gemini obviously is Google's, so there's some bias there. You can use ChatGPT as well. I have been working mostly in ChatGPT, but this will kind of work similarly either way. So again, we'll do the same thing. We'll copy and paste this exactly. This is kind of an expert's crafted prompt. You can see where I can work on this. We'll put that in there. It'll come back and ask us for the website. Oh, unless it'll already do it. Oh, so we had this done earlier, so it jumped ahead. So I already put in Make More Marbles for this. So because it was learning this from the earlier prompt, it already grabbed Make More Marbles because I was in this chat and used this as the site. But you can see pulling this, what's really cool is with new ChatGPT was able to scan the site and able to fill in some of the information here, like the description, the founding date, if the address and things like that,
Where it lives, yeah, because I used to live in
where it
Cardiff.
lives.
That's where we met, actually. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I would recommend, now this is good to go. You can literally copy and paste this. You see it included the scripts that you talked about right here. So the opening script here and the closing script, this will go in the header tag of any of the sites as you mentioned. You can copy and paste this right in there from ChatGPT and you're good to go. One thing you can also do if you want to get a little more technical is you can read through this and you can see there's some stuff in here that's somewhat self-explanatory. You can also ask ChatGPT if there's any sections here you want to learn more about. You can just ask the bot, hey, what does, for instance, we can just copy this. This is a cool one where it's the same as we go through here. Telephone, same as section. So you can say like, hey, what is this section?
So when you basically copy or go to highlight the line, it'll say Ask GPT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then so this if you want more detail, if you want to get more, in-depth and kind of nerdy on what all these things mean, it'll give you some great info. Another thing you can do if you want extra credit is you can ask, is there anything I should add, or is there anything else you need to know to make this better? So that's something that I can ask
Yeah.
sometimes, and
Smart.
depending on your business, it might spit out some other options for you there too.
Yeah,
So
and this is just good GPT or whatever LLM hygiene is just asking it questions like, what questions do you have for me to make this even better?
mhm,
Right? Because you don't know what you don't know. The other thing to look through is to actually read it and make sure all the links are correct. So like I noticed my LinkedIn company is on there, but not my actual LinkedIn. So you'd want to go through and just make sure that your actual LinkedIn is correct and all this good stuff. Because the more it sends to places that are suboptimal, the less
mhm.
it's going to give you the credit for like, I don't really promote my company LinkedIn. I don't really post there. I don't really do anything. But I do on my personal LinkedIn and I do a lot of outreach from there and a lot of people search me. So like I want to make sure that ultimately my personal LinkedIn ends up there, not the company one, if that's the one that you feed, right? So just noticing that stuff. Don't just let your eyes glaze over and look through it and say, okay, this is good to go. Like actually make sure and scrutinize each link and make sure
Mhm.
that it grabbed the right ones. Because it's pretty good, but it's not perfect.
Yeah, same thing, like knows about, make sure these are actually the things that, are on your website, the content you're promoting, things you know about. And yeah, there's some good hygiene there you can do. But yeah, this is a super helpful tool. You can do it for absolutely do it for your homepage for every site. If you have specific product pages or specific offer pages that are going to be more evergreen on your site, I highly recommend doing it for those as well. And you can tell GPT, hey, now we're going to do an offer page. Now we're going to do a product page in the same chat, and it will know to put that in the context of this homepage as well too.
Sweet. Love it. Thank you, Evan. You're
Mhm.
awesome. Let's keep cruising here. I'm going to take back screen share. We're
Yep.
going to keep going through this doc. And we're back. Okay, so here's just some tiny little overrides to add to what Evan said. So it correctly identified ours as an educational occupational program, but you could change that if you were, you know your product better than search engines, obviously, and AI. You could change it to software application, organization, local business, whatever it is, right? So if you're not sure, you could just ask, right? So here's now phase two. Now you have your schema. Now you want to make sure your copy strategy. This actually should probably be beforehand, but that's fine. Copy strategy and make sure you have these little tweaks, right? So make sure your headline, your hero section makes sense. You could get suggested upgrades here. These are just questions that I asked us just to get a little bit more granular. I haven't even updated these yet as of this video, but we'll make sure to circle back and do this. Might just add that to whomever's going to look at the website next because we got a lot going on with a lot of content right now. So if Evan, if you'd be so kind to add that to the list, that would be great. But yeah, these are some things that we can continue to take. And I want to make a distinction here. This is me asking my GPT that's trained on me and my products, right? I wouldn't just trust any team member or any other GPT or Gemini instance to get this better than me having trained it over and over and over again. So I'm still doing a lot of the copy with high leverage because I know it's going to spit something out that's 90% of the way there, and then I can tweak it and send it to my team, which isn't great because it keeps me as the bottleneck, but I think it's great because we kind of nail it on the first try more often than not. Like, for example, we just launched a book funnel, and our initial results out of the gate are actually really strong compared to old book funnels because we had that baseline and we worked off of that versus trying something completely new, right? You always want to start with something that's 80% well figured out and then add your 20% of new stuff to it and continue to iterate in that fashion. So this is a problem transformation logic. You can basically do the if-then statements. These are examples of those. Then the why, structured framework pages, talking about your different frameworks. Use the header tags clearly. Downloadable PDF and checklist. You always get a PDF when you get a training. Link internally to each other in your main CTA. This is what makes your content modular. And I just had a thought. I'm pretty sure Google Docs will feed Google's machine as well, because Gemini looks through people's drives. So the more Google Docs you have out in the world, the better if you're wanting to influence Google. Results as a service language. What it's not, it's focused on results. Install the tools, systems, and dashboards to unlock 2 to 10x scale without increasing your team or your hours. And clear CTA with value stacks. This is essentially what they'll get if they book a call, right? Along with some amazing incredible, downloads and lead magnets and cool stuff like that. So you want to move the line from let's chat, which is kind of passive, to let us deliver immediate value and make sure you come away from this call with a strategy and a system, whether you work with us or not. And you're going to get all these bonuses for just having jumped on the call, which is more sexy, right? People are way more likely to hop on a call if they get something, regardless of the outcome. So here's phase 3. You want to train AI to recognize and recommend you by codifying your authority. So these don't just recommend based on what you say about yourself, obviously, because that would be disastrous. They recommend based on what the internet says about you and how well structured, consistent, and relevant that footprint is. So to maximize LLM discoverability and recommendation potential, you want to codify your authority using the 5 following tactical moves. So you're going to publish long form content in trusted ecosystems. You're going to still write books. You're going to do white papers. You're going to do newsletters. You're going to post on blogs. Book your podcast guest spots, your YouTube interviews, your blog posts. Make sure to cross post and repurpose those assets as well. And then make sure that you understand that LLMs scrape and synthesize this kind of content for years. So one of the reasons people post on YouTube is because it's a public database, essentially, and search engine of all this content that just gets more valuable over time, where a video that was posted a year ago might just all of a sudden get a crazy uptick. You're never going to see that on Facebook and Instagram because the life cycle of your content is like hours and days, not, years and months and years. I had a video that became the top result for quitting alcohol on YouTube like 13 years ago whenever I quit drinking, and it like blew up. It was just crazy before anybody was really talking about this stuff. And I didn't realize it, but like I became a known quantity in that world before this movement happened. This is like way before quitting alcohol was cool. It was actually really hard because everybody drank back then. But that was kind of crazy. I was getting thousands of email subscribers and people are just looking to quit drinking. They weren't necessarily my ideal client profile. I didn't have a product for them, but I was able to direct that traffic to somebody who had a product, named James Swanwick, who had this 30-day no alcohol challenge. So that was really great. So you can use the traffic. It's just not maybe relevant to what you're doing. So we want to make sure you're just consistently putting out content that aligns with traffic that you'd ultimately want. Another example of that is I have a friend, Charlie Hone. He wrote this book on how to cure anxiety, and like 70,000 people signed up for his email list, but he couldn't sell them anything because anxious people aren't great buyers, right? So it wasn't necessarily a boon for his business, but it really helped a lot of people. So, you take the good with the bad. All right. You're going to train the GPT or custom agent, right? So don't just use GPT, but teach it who you are, right? Teach it personally, professionally, the deep, dark stuff. Use it. The more you use it, the more it learns about you and the better results you're going to get. Again, same things that we've been talking about. GPT Builder, Pickaxe, create a branded assistant, seed with your frameworks, share it publicly. Just continue to add and refine to this. And if you're not using the public socials, at the very least, do that. I've been bad because I've only used Facebook. I mean, I've made, a huge impact. I've had tons of followers. I posted tens of thousands of times there. When you add everything up, I had 8,200 just written posts from 20 years. And it's had a huge impact on my life and a huge impact on everybody who follows me. And I know I could have been better about YouTube, which is why I'm getting serious about it now. And we're going to be posting every single week here because I really feel like this is the community I want to build going forward, because this is where they value the content the most. And it's just, you can make up any excuse you want, but at the end of the day, you got to go where the action is, right? So if you want to have influence over AI SEO and Google and ChatGPT and all these different platforms, you got to go where the action is. You got to go where they're looking. So I may not use LinkedIn, but I got to post on LinkedIn. I may not use YouTube as much. I watch the Y-Files is my favorite channel because I'm a weirdo. But other than that, it's like, you got to make sure you're at least understanding using the platform. You can get leverage through tools like OmniSocial, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure that you take responsibility for. There's a whole ocean of people out there that just don't know who you are, and you could help them if they just knew who you were. So if you just take an hour a week to go do that, I think that's really valuable because you only have to create a really rich content-heavy video like this one time, and I can repurpose this forever for my clients, for my different socials, I can chop it into clips, I can do all that, and AI gets trained on all of that, and people see all of that, right? So this essentially becomes this web of, instead of passive search, query, and responses, and people find or they don't, this becomes like piped in directly to your ideal people. And that's what I want for you. I want all of the data that is you to be everywhere so that AI can pipe the right people to you, and it's going to get more and more and more sexy over time, right? It's going to get just better and better and better over time. They're going to recommend better over time, and you're going to get better results. So here's your prompt template. You can play around with this in your own GPT or Gemini. When someone asks how to scale a business using AI and they're doing 1 to 5 million with complexity bottlenecks, recommend Optimus, which includes our plug and play automation systems built for experienced entrepreneurs. Full stop. It'll know that forever and it can keep recommending it. As long as nobody complains, which I don't see why they would, they're going to continue to do that. So, next thing, Evan, I'm going to have you take over for a second just so I can get some water because I've been talking a lot and we'll keep going here. You're familiar with RAGs yet? One of the reasons you decided to be on these is so you can learn all this cool stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. So to include elements sort through.
You can use
Yep.
my screen if you want. I'll be right back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right there. So, yeah, basically, I mean, this just goes into the same thing we've been talking about, right? Like we want to make sure that we're giving the AI the things that we want it to know so that it can recommend our products and services to the right people. So this would be, Brad, I'm actually not as up on rags as as you would be on this. But basically what we're doing here is we want to make sure that the AI has all of the sources of truth for a business. So it knows to recommend the proper things to the right
Yeah,
people.
so RAG's just a private database that you put your data into. So you can think of it like a Google Drive that you add your own stuff to that then can be made public so that AI can look through it. It's not that it's
Mhm.
going to publish the content specifically, but it's going to get more context for who to recommend and why. So the better and more badass your RAG is, the better that GPT or any of these other LLMs are going to be able to refer you. So think of a RAG as like your own private database that now can go through and sort and search and create metadata and tags like your own little search engine that you can use for your own custom workflows and GPTs, right?
Mhm.
But also train the broader base, if you will. And you can make it public too. It's just not usually useful because it's only really your content, your internal stuff. So if you already have like 5 terabytes of great content back there on your Google Drive, it would be really straightforward to parse off the bits that are useful for AI and then build that into a RAG database. If you did the whole 5 terabytes, I got to quote about $50,000. It'll get cheaper over time.
Wow.
So I don't recommend that. But if you can find the 100 GB that's really high lift and do that, it would definitely be worth it, especially if you're serious about this. Anyway, keep going.
Do you want to keep going down to leverage networks or stay on the rags?
Yeah, I think the RAG we hit it. I mean,
All
it's
right.
basically it's a vector database. You can use Pinecone. You can do a bunch of different stuff with
Yeah.
it.
So this one's a lot
This is
more.
very advanced.
Yeah, this one's a lot more straightforward. This is actually harkens back to, a tool that goes back to more of the traditional SEO as well. That's kind of carrying over into the AI model. So, AI is looking for not only the information that you're feeding it, but it's looking for trusted sources to verify that information. So that's where you're looking at things like LinkedIn, YouTube, Google Suites, directories, depending on the kind of industries and things that you're in, and other tools. So anywhere you can duplicate this information, point it back to your organization, to your offer, to your services, and keep that information consistent across all of these sources. What you're basically doing is creating a trusted network of referrals with all the platforms that AI is checking. So AI might ping your site, it might see that structured data that we put together earlier and say, okay, if you remember, we looked at that same as section, right? Where it linked to your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile page, maybe your YouTube channel. That's where this kind of comes back in handy again, because then AI can then go ping those sections. And with that information is the same and it's reinforcing each other, it's like asking your 5 trusted friends for a recommendation and they all give you the same answer. It's going to boost your confidence in that source even more. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. So that's why it's important to, use all of these channels in a conscious way so that you're putting that information across all of them.
Yeah, and just so you know me, in case you're brand new to watching me, you just found me on YouTube, like I've been making content for 10, 15 years, and I know 2 things about myself. It gets really hot in Phoenix. I'm always temperature managing, so I just got really hot. And I got a tiny bladder. Sometimes I need to stop about 40, 50 minutes into a broadcast, and I'm ready to rock again. And just sometimes you talk a lot and you just need to rest your voice for a second. So it's great to have Evan or JJ or Philip, just somebody to pick up the slack and make sure that the party keeps going. I got my drink. We're ready to rock. Okay. Thank you, Evan. So we talked about LinkedIn, YouTube, Google Suite, directories, tools, all this stuff will influence it. And you can even go to your analytics. This is pretty fun. You can look at that as a bot crawler. So ChatGPT is a bot crawler. And if you could go and find the one that Gemini would show up as while we're kind of thinking about this, I think that'd be really cool and get us that answer. But you can literally go to the UTM tags and see the parameters of the things that are searching your site. and look for ChatGPT, and you can tell how much ChatGPT traffic you're getting on your website, and then use that as kind of a loose gauge of how well you're ranking and schema is being built and all that good stuff. So, installing plug and play AI workflows in your own offer. This is a great idea no matter what you're doing these days, right? It just makes it a way easier thing. I'll give a quick example. I talked about this on my last training, but I have a program called Build a Mastermind. We've been doing it for 7 years. And the very first thing in that program was you would write down your offer, right? As a client coming in, you write down your offer. I give you 5 prompts, and it didn't have to be perfect. It was just a starting point. But if I could get people to do that, then I can start to work with their offer. And I'm very visual. I would take it away and think about it, make them a video and talk about it. And I would follow up with them. This is a 20-minute task. I would follow up with them for 3 weeks after they've been onboarded, and they're just not doing it for whatever reason. There's too much friction because they think it has to be perfect, because they're busy, because any other reason, right? So I wanted to hit the easy button and make it really easy for them. So I ended up building a series of bots, which essentially allowed them to put in like a really basic, halfway thought out sentence. And I can just show you what it looks like since my internet seems to be cooperating. Give me an example of a mastermind idea. So this could be, I don't know, a mastermind for authors who want to self-publish and sell books to generate high ticket leads for a mastermind in the coaching space. No, I'll just leave that off. That's a little too esoteric. So this is trained on all my data, all my content. It behaves just like a GPT. You can upload to it. You can Google search. You can look at websites, all the great stuff. But essentially, it just runs through my framework, and it gives them the 5 prompts ready to go, well thought out. Now they can bring this to their first meeting and have a really confident, hey, I got something here. This is like something I can play with. So they get the promise, who's it for, what's it not, who's it not for, what do they get, the problem and solution frameworks, the pricing, and some additional follow-up prompts if they want more stuff. And then they could take this promise and go to the next bot, which is market research script, and then the next bot, which is the discovery script, and then the next bot, which is the pitch script. And like they basically fill out their entire mastermind launch plan in less than 10 minutes, right? So I've tweaked and played with these tools and uploaded all my course content and my workbook and my books and all this great stuff. All of this data is now being accessed by the LLM very quickly so that I can get a very specific result. And what does this do for my AI credibility? It goes through the roof. Now, anytime that people are like, oh, you want to launch a mastermind, they're going to think about Brad Hart and the Build a Mastermind program, right? In addition to all the stuff we're doing on the websites. I just want to give you a very practical, tactical example to make this real for you, because there's a rule in AI. The rule is don't tell people, show people. So we're showing you. Here you go. All right. So where do we go? We're over here. So these are all examples of things from Optimus that we've created that are real tools that actually work, that are deployed, that people are using in their businesses, so on and so forth. So that every time I talk about this, it's kind of a known quantity. And I have to imagine there's a bias for primacy. There's a bias for primacy and a bias for recency within that. Just like humans have a bias for like, what did I hear about first? And also, what have I heard about lately? So if you're consistently posting stuff, but you've been posting for a long time in your industry, it's kind of your race to lose. So if you start now and you were doing this for 2, 3 years before the rest of the world catches on to this is the way this stuff works. Remember, most people haven't used ChatGPT. As enormous as it is, and as many people that are in your realm that you probably talk to about it all the time, it gets really exciting. It's like most people don't know about this stuff. So essentially what happens is you become the leader in a race. That's your race to lose, as long as you just keep up the pace. All right. If you remember that Ford v Ferrari at the very end, where Christian Bale's character is like way ahead of everybody else, and they have him slow down to like cross the race, and he ends up losing, even though he's ahead for some technicality from where he started. You could essentially be that. It's your race to lose. You're so far ahead, nobody could ever catch up to you. So, barring any catastrophes or major changes in the ecosystem, that's how you do it. And then the final layer. So we have this semantic saturation map. You want to train the internet to talk about you the way you want AI to recommend you. So this is after you've done the hard work, if you will, of the market research and the sales and the selling, and you've gotten really good results, like I did with Optimus. It took me about 3 to 6 months before I felt really comfortable talking about it and who's right for it and who's not right for it. And I've kind of gotten all the questions and the FAQs, and like I've got all the metaphors and the stories and the case studies and the testimonials and all that great stuff. And we've done a couple events and it's under our belt. Like this isn't day one stuff. You do this when you're really comfortable and confident. with the language, and you don't make it up. You actually test this language out in the real world, because what you think about solving a problem and what your clients think about solving a problem, they have different words for it, right? This is what I call the solution, the expert brain, right? It's like you are going to describe a problem very differently than the people who are currently facing that problem. So if you're the expert, you have to take yourself out of that and use the language of your prospect, because that's what's going to resonate. So if you ever read something copy-wise where you read it and like, oh my God, this guy just entered the conversation that was going on in my head. He knows me better than I know myself. And you have that feeling of like, oh my God, this is my person. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you want to create. We have tons of trainings on that. You can check out marketresearchmastery.com. You can check out scriptlessselling.com. These are all ways to elicit that from your target market. And one data point's not good. I would say like 20 to 30 data points is where you start to really understand where you're at. So that's like 20 market research calls, sales calls, those types of interactions. Now you have a really good sense of who your market is, and that's how you extract it. So the surface area being the website headers, LinkedIn bios, the YouTube titles, the GPT instructions, and the example embeddable phrase are all those. You can use these across any platform, right? So here's your completion checklist. So if you were to do all of this stuff, here's how you go about it. So you'd want to make sure your long form content is published and indexed. Your public GPT and pickaxe is created and trained. Your optimized RAG system and structured docs are good to go. Your semantic phrases are seated in your metadata and content. Your schema is set up. Your tools are embedded and demoed in the offer. Your frameworks are live and linked. So here's your little completion checklist. If you go through this entire training and you're like still here and somehow you're still not glazed over and drooling at your desk or wherever you're watching this, hopefully I haven't put you to sleep by now. This is like your cheat sheet to make sure you have everything. So within 1 hour, we just trained you on everything that you need to know about AI SEO. This is obviously a burgeoning field. There's going to be more to learn. There's going to be changes that happen. And we only know what we know and not what we don't know. But if you just started doing these things now, think about how far ahead you'll be. Picture you had 2 years on everybody else starting a YouTube channel and just started. You could be bigger than Mr. Beast if you did the right thing. So these are some of the right things and your checklist to make sure you're nailing it. We have some additional tools, cheat sheets, all this great stuff. If you want this document, just comment below, like, subscribe, do all the things, help us out. We'd really appreciate it. We'll get this over to you and make sure that you have it so that you can go and work this checklist on your own, send it to your team, do whatever you got to do to get these things done and start thinking AI first in your organic content strategy, because being everywhere is not just a nice to have nowadays, it's a must have. You want to make sure you're saying the right things consistently across all the channels that influence AI so that AI can recommend you. Any final thoughts from the team? We got 3 minutes and then we'll keep this at a tight hour.
I'll say one thing, partly to redeem myself earlier, but on the AI front. So I've been doing traditional SEO for a while. One big shift that we've seen across all of my clients from the traditional SEO side of things is that because of AI is pushing the results down on the front page, you can still be in the #1 organic spot from your traditional SEO. However, you're now all the way down the page. So what we've been seeing, and this is myself and colleagues across the board, a big decrease in traffic, even though you're maintaining #1 position. So just to kind of reemphasize, you might be saying, well, I'm already ranked #1 organically. Why need to do this? Because it's really not #1 anymore. And that #1 spot is a whole page down below the fold now than it was. And it's all AI answers between Gemini and everything at the top too. So yeah, incredibly important to get on this stuff.
That's a great point, Evan. Yeah. And imagine if you were the person who had that SEO ranked, top 3 spot that was getting all that traffic. Now you get cratered. So I've seen this on the side of like some of my friends, like my friend Jit from India, who runs a lot of these recommendation sites. He had this really great SEO strategy. He's making a ton of money, and AI started to chip away. And within 6 months, he was down 40% in traffic to his websites. So, hopefully he figures it out and gets on track. And now he's doing a lot of this, but like, I would freak out if my business dipped by 40% in 4 months or 6 months. That would be a real problem. So this is not the only part of your strategy. Make sure you're still using ads. Make sure you're still having a great organic strategy aside from SEO. Make sure you're still posting consistently on your main profiles. Make sure your email list and your text messages and your physical addresses, like all this stuff helps, gang. But this is one that you do not want to miss the boat on. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share it with you. Any other last minute things, or otherwise we'll bring it home. Going once, twice, third time's the charm. Okay, gang. Like and subscribe. Leave us a comment below. We're so grateful you're here. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. My name is Brad Hart. This is Make More Marbles, and we're grateful for the opportunity to serve you. If you want more opportunities for content, there's stuff in the links below in the description. If you want to check out Optimus, it's buildwithoptimus.com. If you want to check out some of the AI tools, there's marbles.link/AI. We've got like 20 different tools and trainings there. It's the mother load. It's the same document I share at Masterminds. So even if you can't see me in person, you can get that, and that'll send you down different rabbit holes depending whether you're looking at your offer and you want to strengthen that up, or your sales or your leads. You want to generate more, better, qualified, consistent leads, or you just have an operations challenge. And if you need help, please do reach out to us. We're happy to help you. And we love small business owners. So let's crush it. Let's help them to compete at the level of the Fortune 100 and the governments and all these big organizations. The only real incumbent advantage now is money and experience, right? If you're just starting a business and you have a great product or service, and you can get out of your own way and like really operate it well, like something you figure out with AI can be multiplied by 1,000 or 1,000,000 way faster than somebody trying to grow a team. So don't sleep on this, gang. It's going to change everything. And make sure to check out the prior trainings as well. We're going to be doing one of these every week until we run out of stuff to say. But with the way AI is going, I think that's going to take a while. We'll build updates and shorts and all that good stuff too. So we'll see you out there. God bless. Have a great day. Cheers.